People like you don't usually hang around places like this. I need to see identification.
I am the owner of this store.
Turn around. Hands behind your back.
Why is the owner of this boutique in handcuffs?
A white woman named Gloria Hartwell saw Diane Okafor, a black woman, browsing through fine jewelry at Crestwood Fine Jewels, an upscale jewelry boutique, for about 10 minutes. Without any evidence of wrongdoing, Gloria immediately called her husband, Officer Ray Hartwell, and told him there was a suspicious black woman in the store who looked like she was planning to steal something and was making her feel unsafe. Officer Hartwell arrived within minutes and confronted Okafor while she was examining a display case of diamond necklaces, demanding ID, telling her that someone like her didn't belong in an upscale jewelry boutique, and ordering her to leave before he arrested her for making other customers uncomfortable. When Okafor, the actual owner and founder of the boutique, revealed her identity and stated that she had built the business herself, Officer Hartwell refused to believe her. He accused her of lying and impersonation, handcuffed her in front of shocked customers, and began dragging her out of her own store while she protested that she was telling the truth. What Officer Hartwell and his racist wife didn't know was that the store's general manager, who had stepped out briefly on an errand, would return at exactly the wrong moment, recognize his boss being arrested in handcuffs, and that a simple internet search would instantly prove Okafor owned the entire luxury jewelry chain. Their racist assumption that a black woman couldn't possibly own an upscale store would cost both of them their careers and result in a $680,000 lawsuit that would expose their long pattern of targeting and harassing black people. Before we go further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We love seeing where you're tuning in from. And if you believe shopping while black shouldn't mean getting arrested in your own store, hit like and subscribe. Diane Okafor pulled her car into the upscale shopping district on Westfield Avenue just after 2 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, looking forward to a few hours of browsing in the city she had moved to just 2 weeks earlier. At 38 years old, Okafor was the founder and CEO of Crestwood Fine Jewels, a high-end jewelry boutique chain she had built from absolutely nothing over 5 years. She had started with a single small store, funded by her life savings and a business loan. She had worked 16-hour days for 3 years straight and turned that one location into a 4-store chain worth over $3 million. She employed 42 people across her locations, and she had just moved to this city to personally oversee the opening of her newest flagship store scheduled for next month. Today, Diane had decided to visit the original Crestwood location incognito, wanting to browse quietly and observe how the staff was running things without announcing herself as the owner. She wore elegant but understated clothes, tailored trousers, a cream silk blouse, understated gold jewelry, and clean leather flats. She looked exactly like the affluent customers her boutique catered to. She walked through the glass doors of Crestwood Fine Jewels with a small smile on her face, excited to see her first location after months away focused on expansion. The store was beautiful, exactly as Diane had designed it. High ceilings, elegant lighting, glass display cases arranged in clean, sweeping rows, each one showcasing fine necklaces, bracelets, rings, and earrings. Plush seating areas near the consultation counters. Soft instrumental music playing in the background. There were about 6 other customers in the store, most of them white women in their 30s and 40s, examining pieces with the careful attention that expensive jewelry deserved. One of those customers was Gloria Hartwell, a white woman in her mid-40s wearing a tennis outfit and carrying a handbag, who had been at a display case near the entrance when Diane walked in. Gloria glanced up at the sound of the door chime, and her eyes immediately locked onto Diane. Something in Gloria's mind clicked into suspicion mode the moment she saw a black woman entering this expensive boutique. Diane was completely unaware of Gloria's attention as she made her way to the fine necklace displays near the back of the store. She leaned over the glass cases, studying the pieces, checking the craftsmanship, mentally noting that the staff had done an excellent job with the presentation. She asked a sales associate to show her a diamond pendant, held it up to the light, and examined the cut carefully. She was genuinely shopping, but also evaluating her own inventory with the critical eye of someone who had personally curated every item in the store. 5 minutes passed. Diane moved from the necklace display to the ring section, pointing at pieces through the glass, asking questions, considering what might work for the business events she had coming up. She was acting exactly like any other customer, taking her time, being thoughtful. Gloria watched her the entire time. Gloria pretended to examine a bracelet while keeping Diane in her peripheral vision, tracking every move Diane made through the store. In Gloria's racist mind, Diane's careful browsing wasn't the behavior of a discerning customer. It was the behavior of someone casing the place. Gloria had no evidence for this belief, no reason beyond the color of Diane's skin to think anything suspicious was happening. But her prejudice filled in a narrative that made sense to her warped worldview. 10 minutes passed. Diane had now moved to a third section of the store, looking at statement earrings and layered bracelets. She still hadn't made a final selection, just browsing and enjoying the experience of shopping in her own beautifully designed space. But to Gloria, the fact that Diane had been in the store for 10 minutes without buying anything was proof positive that something criminal was happening. Gloria pulled out her phone and stepped toward a quiet corner near the back consultation room. She kept her voice low as she dialed. "Ray, it's me. I'm at Crestwood Fine Jewels on Westfield Avenue. There's a black woman in here acting very suspicious. She's been walking around for 10 minutes just looking at things and not buying anything. I think she's planning to steal something. I don't feel safe." Officer Ray Hartwell was sitting in his patrol car 2 miles away finishing paperwork when his wife's call came through. At 48 years old, Hartwell had been a police officer for 22 years and had developed the same racist worldview as his wife through decades of profiling minority communities. When Gloria told him there was a suspicious black woman in an expensive jewelry boutique, he didn't question her assessment for even a second. "Stay where you are. I'm 15 minutes away. Keep an eye on her, but don't confront her. I'll handle it when I get there." Diane, still completely unaware that police had been called on her, finally made her selections. She asked to try on 2 necklaces and a bracelet, a white diamond pendant, a gold-layered chain, and a wide bangle with paved stones, and was walking toward the consultation counter to sit with a sales associate for a closer look. She never made it. The boutique door opened, and Officer Ray Hartwell walked in, full police uniform, badge on his chest, service weapon on his belt, radio crackling. He was a tall white man with graying hair and the confident bearing of someone who had spent 2 decades exercising authority without having it questioned very often. His eyes scanned the boutique and immediately found what he was looking for, a black woman near the display cases. He walked directly toward Diane with purposeful strides. Diane noticed the officer approaching, stopped, confused, and turned to face him. "Excuse me, ma'am. I need to speak with you." "Yes, officer. Is there a problem? What are you doing in this store?" "I'm shopping." "Is something wrong?" Hartwell's expression hardened. "I received a call that there is a black female in this store acting suspicious, possibly planning to steal merchandise. The caller said she felt unsafe." Diane felt her stomach drop and anger immediately flare. "Are you serious right now?" "I'm shopping. I'm looking at jewelry to try on." "Is this because I'm black?" "Ma'am, I need you to calm down. I'm just responding to a call. I need to see some identification." "Identification for what exactly?" "I haven't done anything wrong." Hartwell's professional mask slipped. "Look, let's be real here. Someone like you in this expensive boutique looks kind of suspicious. People like you don't normally shop in places like this. So I need to see some ID and verify who you are." The words hung in the air. Several customers gasped. Someone pulled out their phone and started recording. "Someone like me? People like me? You mean black people?" "Officer, you're saying black people don't shop in jewelry stores?" "I'm saying I received a call about suspicious activity and I need to verify your identification." Diane pulled her driver's license from her wallet and held it out. Hartwell took the ID and barely glanced at it before handing it back. He had already decided Diane didn't belong, regardless of what her identification said. "Ma'am, I need you to leave this store. You're making other customers uncomfortable. If you leave now, there won't be any further issues." Diane looked around. Most customers looked uncomfortable, not because of her, but because they were watching a police officer racially profile someone. I'm not leaving. I haven't done anything wrong. I have every right to be here. Ma'am, if you refuse to comply with my lawful order to leave these premises, I will place you under arrest for trespassing and disturbing the peace. Trespassing? Disturbing the peace? I'm looking at jewelry. This is insane. A young sales associate named Vanessa approached nervously, looked at Officer Hartwell and then at Diane, and, without asking Diane a single question, sided immediately with the officer. Ma'am, if the officer is asking you to leave, you need to comply. You're disturbing the peace of our boutique. I'm shopping. I'm looking at jewelry. How is that disturbing anything? Ma'am, you need to leave now or we'll support whatever action the officer deems necessary. Diane realized this was spiraling out of control. She looked at Hartwell, at Vanessa, at the customers recording on their phones. She made a decision. She spoke loudly and clearly so everyone in the boutique could hear her. Do you know who I am? My name is Diane Okafor. I am the owner and founder of Crestwood Fine Jewels. This store, the one you're accusing me of trying to steal from, I own it. I built this business from nothing. And you are racially profiling me in my own establishment. The boutique went completely silent. Nice try. But lying about who you are and impersonating a business owner just made this a lot worse for you. You're under arrest. I'm not lying. I'm the owner. Ask the manager. Check the business registration. Google my name right now. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. The metal handcuffs clicked closed around Diane's wrists with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the silent store. Hartwell grabbed her arm and began pulling her toward the exit. You're arresting me for shopping in my own store. This is false arrest. This is racial profiling. I'm the owner. Diane was pulled past the display cases she had personally designed, past the elegant fixtures she had chosen, past the customers she had hoped to serve. She was being dragged out of her own business in handcuffs. Hartwell reached the front doors and pulled them open. Diane was halfway through the doorway when the door opened from the outside and a man in his early 50s carrying coffee and a folder of invoices stepped in from the other direction. Thomas Webb, the general manager of Crestwood Fine Jewels, stopped dead in his tracks. He looked at Officer Hartwell. He looked at the woman in handcuffs. Then his eyes focused on the woman's face. Recognition hit him like a physical blow. His coffee hit the floor. Oh my God! Why is the owner of this boutique in handcuffs? Everything stopped. Thomas dropped his folder and rushed forward, positioning himself directly between Officer Hartwell and the exit. Officer, what are you doing? That's Diane Okafor. She owns this boutique. She founded the entire Crestwood chain. Why is she in handcuffs? This woman was acting suspicious in the store, refused to leave when instructed, and then claimed to be the owner, which I know is false. She's under arrest for trespassing, disturbing the peace, and lying to a police officer. It's not false. She is the owner. I'm the general manager of this location. I work directly for her. That is my boss you have in handcuffs. Thomas pulled out his phone with shaking hands and typed quickly. Search results loaded instantly. He turned the screen toward Hartwell. Article after article about Diane Okafor. Photos of her at ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Business magazine interviews about her success as a black entrepreneur in the luxury jewelry industry. Features about her journey from working 3 jobs to building a multi-million-dollar chain. Look! That's her, Diane Okafor, founder and CEO of Crestwood Fine Jewels. Those are articles about her business. That's her face in every single photo. She is telling you the truth. Officer Hartwell looked at the phone screen, and Diane could see the exact moment realization hit him. His face went from confident authority to pale uncertainty in 3 seconds. The articles were undeniable. Vanessa covered her mouth with both hands, eyes wide with horror. She had just told her actual employer to leave her own store. Gloria Hartwell froze, trying to disappear into the back of the boutique. Officer Hartwell fumbled with the handcuff key and removed the restraints from Diane's wrists. Ma'am, I apologize. There was a misunderstanding here. Diane rubbed her wrists where the metal had been too tight and cut him off with ice in her voice. A misunderstanding? You told me people like me don't shop in places like this. You said someone like me looks suspicious. You refused to believe me when I told you I owned this business. You arrested me in my own boutique because you couldn't imagine a black woman owning a luxury jewelry store. Officer, is that true? Did you say those things to her? I was responding to a call about suspicious activity. Suspicious activity? I was browsing jewelry. I was doing exactly what customers are supposed to do. Someone saw a black woman in an expensive boutique and decided I must be a criminal. Thomas turned to look at the other customers. Who called the police on Miss Okafor? A woman near the front pointed toward Gloria Hartwell, who was trying to blend into a display of watches. Thomas walked directly toward her. Ma'am, did you call the police on our owner? I thought she looked suspicious. She was just walking around for so long. I was concerned for safety. That's why I called my husband. The boutique went completely silent. Every person in the store heard those last two words clearly, my husband. You called your husband? You two are married. She saw you shopping, called her husband on the police force, and he showed up already convinced you were a criminal before he even spoke to you. I genuinely thought something was wrong. I mean, she was just browsing and not buying anything. Browsing and not buying anything? That's what shopping is. That's what every customer in this store does. They browse. They take their time. What exactly made that suspicious, the browsing, or the fact that she's black? Gloria had no answer. Diane turned to Vanessa. And you, when the officer told you I was disturbing the peace, you immediately agreed. You told me to leave. You supported him arresting a customer in your store based on absolutely nothing. Miss Okafor, I didn't know it was you. If I had known you were the owner. If you had known I was the owner, you would have treated me differently. But because you thought I was just a black customer, you assumed the racist cop was right and I was wrong. That's exactly the problem, Vanessa. You made a choice based on what you saw. And what you saw was my skin color. Diane turned to Thomas. Vanessa is terminated. Effective immediately. Thomas nodded. Miss Okafor is right. You supported false accusations against a customer based on racial bias. Leave now. Vanessa grabbed her things and walked out in tears, knowing that video of this incident was already spreading across social media and would follow her for the rest of her life. Officer Hartwell tried one more time to apologize. Diane's eyes were cold. You humiliated me in my own business. You handcuffed me in front of my customers and employees. You treated me like a criminal for shopping while black in a store I built with my own hands. You and your wife are going to answer for this. Another officer walked through the boutique door, having been called as backup. Diane addressed him directly. Your colleague just falsely arrested me, the owner of this business, based on a racist phone call from his wife. I'm filing a formal complaint with your department and a federal civil rights lawsuit. Everything that happened here was caught on security cameras and multiple customer phones. The backup officer looked at Hartwell with an expression that made it clear this was a career-ending mistake. Diane turned to Thomas and issued her instructions in a clear, steady voice. Call our attorney. Tell her exactly what happened and that I need her here immediately. Pull all security footage from the past hour. Get contact information from every customer who witnessed this. And I want a list of every complaint ever filed against Officer Hartwell. She looked at both Hartwells, standing there, realizing their lives were about to fall apart. Get out of my store. Both of you. Now. The Hartwells left without another word, walking out into the afternoon sunlight, knowing that their racism had just cost them everything. Attorney Stella Adeyemi arrived at Crestwood Fine Jewels within 40 minutes, and immediately began building what would become one of the most clear-cut civil rights cases she had ever handled. The security footage showed everything in perfect detail. Diane Okafor entering the boutique at 2:14 p.m., browsing peacefully, acting exactly like every other customer. Gloria Hartwell watching Diane with visible suspicion from the moment she walked in. Gloria pulling out her phone at 2:23 p.m. and making a call while staring directly at Diane. Officer Hartwell arriving at 2:31 p.m. and immediately approaching Diane with hostility. The security system had audio. Adeyemi heard Hartwell tell Diane that people like her don't shop in expensive boutiques. She heard him order Diane to leave for making customers uncomfortable when Diane had done absolutely nothing wrong. She heard Diane clearly state she was the owner, and heard Hartwell accuse her of lying. She heard the handcuffs click closed. The footage was damning and irrefutable. Customer videos had already gone viral, 8 million views in just 3 hours. But the viral videos were just the beginning. Adeyemi subpoenaed Officer Hartwell's complete personnel file, and what she found was a pattern of racist behavior that should have ended his career years ago. In 22 years on the force, Hartwell had accumulated 15 excessive force complaints, 13 of them filed by Black or Hispanic individuals. 19 wrongful detention complaints, 16 by minorities. Every single complaint had been investigated internally and either dismissed or resulted in nothing more than a written warning that went nowhere. She pulled his arrest records for the past 7 years. 44% of his arrests of Black suspects were later dismissed due to lack of evidence, procedural violations, or prosecutorial discretion. The dismissal rate for his arrests of white suspects was 9%. The pattern was undeniable, and the department had never taken meaningful action to stop it. Adeyemi also discovered that Gloria Hartwell had called the police on Black people in her neighborhood 7 times over the past 4 years. A Black man jogging in the park, he was a cardiologist who lived 2 blocks away. A Black family having a barbecue in a public recreation area, no other neighbors had complained. A Black teenager walking through the neighborhood, he was delivering newspapers. None of her calls had ever resulted in actual crimes being discovered. There were no crimes. Just Gloria's racism seeing threats where none existed. 4 additional people came forward after seeing the viral video, each one racially profiled by Officer Hartwell in situations where they had committed no crimes. Every single one had been treated like a criminal for the offense of existing while not white. The state attorney general announced criminal charges against Officer Hartwell: false arrest, official misconduct, deprivation of rights under color of law, and filing a false police report. Combined, Hartwell faced up to 12 years in prison if convicted on all counts. Adeyemi filed a federal civil rights lawsuit demanding $680,000 from Officer Hartwell, Gloria Hartwell, and the police department. During depositions, both Hartwells destroyed what little remained of their defense. Gloria admitted under oath that she called her husband because Diane didn't look like she belonged in that kind of store. You can just tell when someone doesn't fit in. When pressed on what specifically made Diane not fit in, Gloria ultimately admitted it was because Diane was Black and Gloria had never seen a Black woman own a luxury boutique. Officer Hartwell's deposition was even more damaging. When asked why he didn't believe Diane, he stated, "It just didn't seem credible. I've never encountered a situation like that." When pressed, he eventually admitted he'd never seen a Black woman own an upscale business, and therefore assumed Diane must be lying. Then came the most devastating moment. Attorney Adeyemi asked directly, "If a white woman had told you she owned the boutique, would you have believed her?" Hartwell paused for a long time. "Probably yes." That answer, recorded in an official deposition, ended any chance he had of defending himself. The criminal trial began 6 months after Diane's arrest and lasted 2 weeks. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence: the security footage, the audio, customer testimony, Hartwell's own deposition where he admitted he wouldn't have arrested a white woman who made the same claim, his 22-year history of complaints, his dismissal rate for Black suspects nearly 5 times higher than for white suspects, and 7 other victims who testified about being racially profiled by Hartwell. The jury deliberated for 9 hours. Guilty on all 4 counts. At sentencing, the judge showed no sympathy. "Officer Hartwell, you were given a badge and the public's trust to protect and serve all citizens equally, without regard to race. Instead, you spent 22 years targeting minorities, making unlawful arrests, and using your authority to harass people based on the color of their skin. You arrested a successful businesswoman in her own store and treated her like a criminal because your racism wouldn't allow you to believe a black woman could own a luxury boutique. This sentence must reflect the severity of your abuse of power. 8 years in state prison. The city settled Diane's civil rights lawsuit for the full $680,000, the largest racial profiling payout in a retail case in the state's history. As part of the agreement, the police department was required to implement comprehensive reforms, mandatory bias training for all officers, an independent civilian oversight board, immediate suspension for officers with patterns of racial bias complaints, and quarterly public reports on arrest statistics broken down by race. The police chief was forced to resign after it was revealed he had personally dismissed 3 of the complaints against Hartwell without proper investigation. A department-wide audit identified 37 officers with similar complaint patterns. 22 were fired. 15 were placed on final warning with mandatory retraining. Gloria Hartwell faced social and financial ruin even without criminal charges. Her identity as the woman who called police on a black business owner went viral, over 60 million views across platforms. Her country club revoked her membership. Her friends stopped returning her calls. Her part-time job at a charity organization terminated her after donors threatened to pull funding. She eventually moved to a different state and changed back to her maiden name, but the internet never forgot, and the videos kept circulating, ensuring she could never fully escape what she had done. Vanessa, the sales associate who was fired for siding with Hartwell, found herself unemployable in retail. Her face was in multiple viral videos supporting the false arrest of her own boss. Hiring managers would find the footage whenever they Googled her name. She ended up working minimum-wage jobs, carrying the permanent stain of being the employee who told the business owner to leave. Diane Okafor used $200,000 of her settlement to establish the Equality in Commerce Foundation, a nonprofit providing legal assistance to victims of racial profiling in retail settings and offering anti-bias training for retail employees and managers. The foundation helped 96 people in its first 3 years, many of them black shoppers who had been followed, questioned, or falsely accused by store employees or security guards who assumed they were criminals. Diane's business experienced significant growth after the incident. Sales across all 4 Crestwood locations increased by 53% as people deliberately chose to shop there to support her. She opened 3 additional locations within 2 years, employing over 70 people. She became a highly sought speaker on entrepreneurship and racial justice, traveling to business conferences and universities to share her story and advocate for change. Major retail chains contacted Diane, asking her to consult on their anti-discrimination policies. She worked with 6 national retailers to develop comprehensive protocols for handling suspected theft, protocols that removed racial bias from the equation entirely and focused on actual observable behavior, not assumptions based on appearance. 5 years after her wrongful arrest, Diane Okafor owned 9 Crestwood fine jewels locations generating over $12 million in annual revenue. Her foundation had helped hundreds of racial profiling victims and changed policies at dozens of retailers. Officer Ray Hartwell was still in prison, serving his sentence, known among inmates as the cop who arrested a business owner in her own store and destroyed his own life in the process. The security footage and customer videos from Diane's arrest remain some of the most widely viewed examples of racial profiling in retail, used in corporate training sessions, college courses, and diversity workshops as proof that success and achievement don't protect black people from being treated as criminals by those who refuse to see beyond skin color. The lesson was brutal and public. Officer Hartwell and his wife saw a black woman shopping, and their racism made them see a criminal instead of a business owner. That assumption cost Hartwell 8 years of freedom and his entire career. It cost Gloria her reputation and social standing. It cost the city $680,000. And it exposed the police department's decades of failure to address racial bias in its ranks. Diane Okafor had walked into her own boutique to shop, and was arrested for being black in a space that racists believed she didn't deserve to occupy. But her refusal to accept that injustice silently forced an entire system to confront its failures, and created protections that would help countless others who came after her. If this story proves that even successful business owners aren't safe from racial profiling, share it with everyone who needs to understand that racism in retail is real and destructive. What training and policies do you think would prevent employees and police from targeting Black customers and entrepreneurs? Drop your solutions in the comments below. And if you believe people should be judged by their character and actions instead of their skin color, subscribe. Because we're bringing you more stories where standing up to injustice costs racists everything.